Brendan Smith with the Utah League of Cities and Towns, and we have a panel today. First, here on my right is Dave Milheim. He is with Farmington City. He's been there for about 6 years. Before that, he was down in South Jordan. Then we have Justin Anderson with the City of Ogden. He is their city engineer, and I forgot the other title. My apologies. So he's the director of public services. And he's been there for 8 years. And then Mayor Applegarth has been the mayor there in Riverton for 11 years. So they're going to share with us some of the things that they have done in their cities to make a transition, moving from just a focus on streets to what can we do for active transportation, transit, and other ways to move our citizens around our cities without just relying on the roads. So we'll start with Mayor Applegarth, and then Justin will follow him, and then Dave. And feel free to ask questions as we go, but afterwards we'll have a little bit of time for some more in-depth discussion about any questions you might have. So go ahead, Mayor Applegarth.
Thank you. I just appreciate being with you today, and as we go through my presentation is questions you have. So if there's anything that you'd like me on to vote on, good. Let's talk. I can talk to you pretty often. I know I can. 20 years of here, I've got about 40 years.
first thing I'd like to do is just echo everything we just heard from Mayor Applegarth. That was fantastic, and I agree with everything that he has said. I get a chance to talk about Ogden City and some of the things that we are doing in Ogden, and as I thought about this, where does it start? It really starts at the top, and we just had a great example from Mayor Applegarth, because when it's important, and this is Mayor Mike Caldwell, he's the mayor of Ogden. When it starts at the top, it sends a message, not only to the public, but also to the staff of where the priorities are at. And when that message comes through, you think differently. You do. You think differently. And as I was putting this together, I heard, a James Bond movie, For Your Eyes Only, kind of came to my mind. And the reason that it did is not because of Sheena Easton singing, or seeing Mayor Caldwell in spandex, even though I'm sure he's going to take me away from his Facebook account. There was a part in the movie of that show where they are in the Alps skiing, and James Bond's on skis, and some guys start chasing him, and they have motorcycles with spikes on them, and they're chasing him. And as many of you are aware, Mayor Caldwell made a commitment to ride his bike every day to work for an entire year. And I think this was a very snowy day in either January or February, and I was in the parking lot, and I see this guy coming in, and he looked like he had one of those motorcycle bikes with the spiky tires, and I thought, I didn't know those were legal. But it was a fat bike, and he had some studs on it, and he was riding, and it was a snowy day, and he came in, and it was eye-opening to me to see that. I don't live, fishing is kind of my thing, and that's what I like doing. However, it's opened my eyes to the different types of bikes that are out there, the different type of uses people are wanting to do. So when it comes down from the top, for all the leaders in here, it sends the right message, and the employees will hear that. So talking a little bit about Ogden's infrastructure, this was a part of a slide that was given at the Governor's Transportation Summit a few years ago. And so when we start looking at all the demands that cities and counties have in taking care of public infrastructure, we have a backlog of over $31 million worth of infrastructure. And that is just in streets, curb and gutter, and sidewalks. And it's a little daunting. And looking back at how much we've been putting towards that over the past 6 years, it's just under $1 million a year. Yeah. So, being an older city, that's some of the challenges that we face, and it's overwhelming at times, especially for older cities. I mean, newer cities, you don't have that problem now, but one day you're going to be facing that problem. And so when you start looking at things, these are all some things. This is on 17th Street, heading out west of Ogden from Wall Avenue, and we're dealing with sidewalk. We got open ditches from irrigation companies, and we got pavement cracking. However, in terms of active transportation, this is not a burden. This needs to be viewed as an opportunity, because this has got to be fixed. And when we go and put the money into funding it, what an opportunity we have to put the infrastructure in for active transportation. So where does it start? This is a picture of Grant Avenue about 10 years ago, right at the river. And looking at it, I'm like, God, the pavement looks pretty good. It doesn't look too bad right here. There's a sidewalk on one side of the street. Luckily in Ogden, we have a lot of streets that are big and wide from our forefathers in how they've laid out the city. But where does active transportation start? There's really not a lot of active transportation here other than the sidewalk. It was designed to carry cars on the road. That's what it has done, and done very well. However, now this is the same Grant Avenue today, and it's a great opportunity. You see, pedestrian sign and a crosswalk right there. You can see a bike lane, and you can see a lot of buildings going on, a lot of redevelopment in this area. And this is right here along a stretch where we were able to restore 1 mile stretch of the Ogden River. And one of the things that is we look at active transportation, we need to realize that economic development, active transportation, ecological restoration or preservation all go together. They are not mutually exclusive. And when they get combined, you can do some very beautiful things. A good indicator of how an area looks and feels is if, and the mayor brought this up, is if you see moms out there with their kids. Because moms are not going to take their kids in places they think are scary. They're not going to take their kids into places where they don't feel safe using the infrastructure. But if you see moms with kids, that is a good indication that you are doing things that feels good and comfortable and a place where people want to be. You bet. Absolutely.
You've got a ladder. You're going to be putting rungs on the ladder, identifying what the priorities in your area are. First activity. Some questions. What about your area's character?
That's a great question. It was actually a little combination of both. I think some things started happening first where we had a vision and wanted to change Grant Avenue, and so we started putting those in. But as this redevelopment, the redevelopment on the left came in before the buildings on the right, even though they're about caught up to each other. But when those came in, we really didn't have a plan in place. And I'm actually going to talk about that in one of my slides of how important it is to have master plans in place. But the ones on the west side or the right side, we had them actually put in some of the improvements.
What you'll be doing is identifying.
So here's another example of safety, and I got Chris, and I'd like to give Chris props. I really enjoy, he's with Chris Peterson with Region 1 of UDOT, he's the director, and we deal with Chris on a lot. We have a lot of roads that go right through Ogden that are owned and maintained by UDOT, and unfortunately a few years ago, and I think every community has to deal with this, is you hear of somebody getting hit in a crosswalk, and you do not want that. It's horrible. And we had that situation happen in downtown Ogden with two elderly women and their granddaughter got hit. And one car stopped and they started crossing the street, and the other car on the other lane didn't. And that's what happened. And so we want to improve our downtown to be more walkable. We want it to be friendly, and we want it to be safe. We want people to feel comfortable. And so in this situation, we were able to get with UDOT, and UDOT has designed their streets and things to move cars. That's the task that they have been given for a long time. And so how do we mesh these together? Well, the first thing is to have open lines of communication. And that's what I appreciate about Region 1, is to be able to call up. And sometimes we see things a little differently with our partners. However, that doesn't mean that our perspectives are wrong. We just need to be able to find common ground. And in this instance, and I like this picture, we have 3 military personnel walking across right here. And we have an activated crosswalk now where people can go up, touch a button, and you can actually see kind of the one light flashing on the one side. It's an LED, it flashes yellow, and it has changed the feel of crossing downtown. And so we have some signalized intersections, but we also have some mid-block crosswalks. And for people using those mid-block crosswalks, when they do push the button, because unfortunately some people don't, I don't understand why, but when they do push that button, the motorists, they see it, they stop. And I know of no accident or no problem since these have been installed. And really they're very small things to be able to install. And having UDOT as a partner, UDOT paid for 3/4 of the 4 intersections improvements. So it's good to have partners. So this comes back to what you brought up. We did it. We just completed a bicycle master plan in Ogden, and this was adopted by our city council in February. We worked on it almost a year and getting public input, and we had 2 meetings, public open houses. The first one we had over 200 people come in to provide input. The second one we had about 150 people show up to provide input. People are getting the message and they want to be involved, and by having master plans in place, it helps lay out what you want to do. Yes? That is a fantastic question, and one we've actually talked about internally. And so our plan on updating master plans, and also, it's not just a bicycle master plan, it's a traffic master plan as well. And I recommend everybody have both done in their communities. 5 years is what we want to do. So yeah, so that go with that comprehensive traffic master plan, that'll include it. So this bicycle master plan is kind of a supplement to go with the comprehensive traffic master plan. But yes, we want to look at those every 5 years and come back and see what we've done, what we haven't done, has things changed, and what do we want to do differently. Because as you do certain projects and you look at them, you're like, well, I wish I would have done that differently, or we could have done this a little better here. And so that's what I would recommend. But you need these in place to be able to make sound decisions. The other thing that's nice at having these in place is it gives you a great opportunity. Because we are an older town, we are replacing a lot of our water system. And when you go in and dig up a road to put in a water line, it's nice to know, well, on this section of road, we want to restripe it and put in a bike lane, or we need to have sharrows. So as it's dug up, we can put back the bike facilities at a very low cost because we know where we want them. A lot of times it's an afterthought, but if you know where things need to go and how to connect them, as you see infrastructure projects being done, you can have them be connected. This is a picture of Grant Promenade. We did a couple blocks, and this was a very kind of in-depth look of having cars, bikes, and pedestrians on a street. And so this is kind of a compressed picture, but you can see the facilities. You can see the bike lanes right there. And I can tell you what, a Ford truck F-150 can fit down that bike lane with about 1 inch to spare on either side. And so sometimes, but it's educating people on what it's, how this is to be used. So we still get, I think, a few people every once in a while trying to turn down that bike lane. And so if anybody's got a recommendation on how to solve that, I'm all ears. But we've also utilized, you can see some of the green on the bike lane right there. And we decided to use that green to give a warning to both the bicyclists and whoever else might be interacting there to say, hey, you're in a zone where you're interacting with something. And so we have a couple parking spots right there so people can open the doors. You can see it's separated by about 3 feet. People can get out and then walk. There's some walk areas where people can walk across. There's apartments right there on that one side. And so it's just, hey, to both the person walking right there, I need to be paying attention, and also the bicyclist to say, hey, watch out. And then there's some areas up farther in the picture where, you know, Farr's Ice Cream, I don't know if you guys have ever been to Farr's Ice Cream in Ogden, but I highly recommend it. So any way we can make it easier to get there is A-okay by me. And so we have cars pulling into their driveway right there. But the same thing for the motor vehiclists. Hey, they see the green. I need to be paying attention right here for the bicyclist. Here's kind of a picture of it was constructed. You can kind of see where that bike lane's going. We've done a couple interesting things when we did this. For one, we put in a lot of permanent infrastructure. This is not just paint that can be changed by somebody having a difference of opinion. When we put this in, this is pretty beefy and it's not going anywhere. It's there to stay for a long time. We looked at everything from drainage. On this bike lane right here, you can see kind of the snakes in the gutter pan right there. But instead of having grates in our gutter pan, we actually put our boxes behind the gutter. So we just had a hooded inlet, and then we've got our cleanouts for that behind. So bicyclists going down the bike lane don't have to go over any grates. We also utilize the planter strips for buffers, but also to do low impact design. So on the west side of the road, all the runoff goes into these planter boxes as well. This is also for the pedestrians. One of the things we wanted to do is for the pedestrians to have a great experience as they walk down the road as well. And so we utilized some existing trees. It had a great canopy, and so we went and banded the sidewalk just to give a little different feel to pedestrians. Let them know that they're in a different spot in our city. great opportunity with the LDS Temple being redone in Ogden, and this Grand Avenue is going to link from our river to the heart of our downtown. We've got part of it completed, and we have another few sections to go. But it does give people a sense of community, and it's nice to see people take pride in something when it's done nice. And I get that we can't do things like that everywhere. However, having centerpieces in your community involving active transportation is well worth the money.
My name is Dave Milheim. How do I do this? I just hit the button? Okay, great. I'm the city manager of Farmington. I have the honor and privilege of working there. And I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm a little punchy. I was in Beijing Sunday, got home late Monday night, and I'm suffering from severe jet lag and unavailability. And I'm going to talk about how they do active transportation that I saw in Shanghai, Beijing, and Targets. I also want to thank Seth Townsend, who's here, works with me as our economic development specialist. He put this presentation together before I left, and he said, I want this, this, and this in there, and I looked at it basically in LAX for like 20 minutes before I got back into town. So I apologize to Seth in advance that I'm going to butcher some of the presentation and say a few things that I want to add into it. Farmington, Utah has been very involved in Trails and Banks for our bikes and trails for a number of years, and we're getting quite a reputation for it. I'd like to say it was part of an organized effort. It really wasn't. We had some very dedicated citizens that said, hey, we like to do trails and do it. And it just started to kind of grew organically, and we got more organized as it went along. There are a couple comments that Mayor Applegarth made that I think are really important. It does need to come from the top, and community leaders need to support it. shows the results of the survey, and there's a couple points I want to make in here. We're not leaders or large cities, but 1,000 responses, which is a really good sample in those two cities, of comments and very specific things that I want us to be looking at with our lives. Here's my point. You can think you know what you ought to be doing with your trails or your bikes, and there is some common sense. Put them on canals, and put them on along highway corridors and natural concrete things, but you really slide in here to show making east-west connections more safe. I want to give Chris Peterson a kudo and some credit. This is not a good old overpass for L-15. Chris said, hey, Farmington will work with us. You know, look how tight that is. Right now, put some fencing up along there and work with UDOT and make that a little safer. And here's an example of what maybe should be done there, rather than just force everybody into that very narrow road. We got a lot of bikers, we got a lot of joggers that are using it. We had a guy literally, it's a really sad story. Jogger on Glover's Lane. You have Glover's Lane overpass. You have a pedestrian overpass right next to Glover's Lane. They're physically not connected, but they're 5 feet apart. Okay? This guy is jogging over Glover's Lane at about 5 o'clock in the morning. Traffic's going by him. He's nervous. He decides to jump over the rail and stand on the concrete platform to get away from the cars. He didn't know it was a second obstruction. Okay? He went 20 feet down on the I-15 when he jumped over. An emergency call came in and said, I just jumped on the I-15, I think my legs are broken, can somebody help me? He didn't even know where he was. We're driving up and down the road with the fire guys and spotlights, but he wasn't sure. He thought the two figures were connected. We've got to do a better job making our paths and corridors safe for whoever's using it. That was kind of an eye-opener. You got to look at your existing systems. This is a slide from the Kaysville Farmington study where we said, okay, what have we got together and where are gaps? So you kind of, again, think beyond your city limit lines. Here's a trail map. The other thing that we got to do is we got to be cheerleaders. One of the things that's made it work for us, and as I said before, it kind of grew organically because we built these trails. Some of them were easier and some of them were harder. We had a very engaged citizen committee. But after a while, the ones that everybody knew about were being used. But then we had these great trails that we put in that nobody knew about because we weren't telling them. So the Trails Committee said, why don't we start advertising these trails? Why don't we talk about them? So I just bought these just as some visuals. This is a Farmington Trail Adventure Panel. We mailed it out to every home with a utility bill. We update it every couple of years as the map changes. It's online. We just had the trail committee, which was a really cool idea they came up with. They walked all 138 miles of our trails with the GPS. Okay? And every 50 feet, some guy clicked a button on the GPS. And so now, if you want to download the GPS thing, you can walk the trail and know exactly where you are. Give directions if you're up on one of the mountain trails. So this just has, here's our trail map. Color coding is the type of trail. Some of the more common trails that people like to use. Throw it in the pocket, use it. We give out maps at City Hall for free.
Okay, we're going to reconvene in just a minute. If you haven't had a conversation about what is your big thing that matters the most to you, what's your takeaway, your aha, what's most critical? One thing, make sure you can communicate that to the rest of the group in a minute. What one thing matters most in your area between now and 2050?
Davis County is just in the biggest trails. The point I'm trying to make is, if you want to have trails and bikes, you got to tell people where they are and getting into them. And they organically become the cheerleaders. If I try to take away a trail, if I try to say you're going to Florida, if I try to say it's going to be emphasis on stuff, it's Farmington, I'd be run out of town. Because it's now a cultural value of our community that I can't touch it. This is a little funny story. This is our Flag Rock Trail. Here's Farmington down below. That's Hershey Park down there. So it's really cool. For instance, this flag is exactly the height of the World Trade Center. Somebody figured that out. Sheer coincidence. And so it's on Folsom Street. Guess what we did wrong?
Okay, who is ready to begin by sharing their
is an important part
Really
of
cool
our
idea.
study.
Who's
We
up
need
here?
to do a demand origin destination.
We
You know,
are
and these bubbles, these sizing bubbles. We, yeah, these what we
wanted to
refer to
have
comments.
art
Our
of our
people
house.
tell us we can pay attention. That helps us plan maintenance, budget decisions, you know, future connections for evaluate, you know, what are our priorities. This next one, I think, it's just remember to think like fun. People ride that, right?
Word important.
There at Station Park, Legacy Trail, you know, what connects to the station. We want people to be able to connect to the station. That's why getting Park Lane improved is important. I really want to give a thank you to ETA. I think this is really critical. This is our park. We work hard to shut down the center town. It's but it used to be just a lagoon shuttle that would stop here at the front window. Just
Great. I hope you all walk around and take a look at each other's maps. You're differing geographies, but some of the maps are, yes.
Span that we have here
Who's up here?
and we now do a half-hour loop
Okay, we
flying
had
to the Triton Mountains. Trains
a lot of regional trails throughout the corridor are tough. Great space. On the ladders, water, healthy residents, healthy trails. So we wanted to check the director here.
These guys look like they ought to, go down to jail or something. But the point I'm trying to make with this slide, why I'm so appreciative of ETA, is this is free. Now, there's no such thing as free.
So Mr. Director here is
Who's paying for this? The city's paying for this. Station Park's paying for this. Yes, it's important. This is a big area. You got the historic property right here. You got the gate right
Yeah,
here.
sometimes if you protect one thing, you get lots of other things, right?
Economic center. We need to make sure this goes to the first and last mile.
So I've got
You can have all these
Western
wonderful trails that you might use for
Washington.
you might use for walking and such.
Started
We've got stuff like reading. We've got high volumes of people that need to get, between these places. We need to have something that can get people easily to early World War to the Shell Station. If you want to ride the train, you've got to drive to the station.
I'm biased to this.
We will expand this someday and build a very large office
Here,
park
I got a
for
lot
Laura.
of people
We'll have to
agree with
capture that area at the same time. This is probably the most important slide, and then I think I'm going to wrap it up. As part of that study we did, even though we've got a lot of trails that which most people are using, we have targeted places where they don't get together. So we've got kind of a cheat sheet that said, what do we want to do? ERT question, Wesley Griffith, Centerville, and Bountiful Others. We got to make sure we don't forget about where we're going to put those future opportunities. There's a quote from Warren Bennis that I read this morning. That's recommended improvements. Oh, yeah, I should have done this. We talked about engineering standards. I used to be a developer. There's nothing more frustrating for a developer than coming to a city with a good project and the city staff says, when do we put in a trail?
Some of these areas have
Put
steep
it
grades.
You say, okay, what do you want? What?
Northwest County
Have standards. Have design guidelines. Know what you want to do. I can build it, but I need to know what I'm supposed to do. I don't want to guess. When I guess, it gets expensive for everybody. And so one of the things we tried to do is dial in, the different kind of guidelines we want as we build streets.
relationships and these political boundaries, and how residents of any given city or county, they're not concerned about that. They want these trails to work. So what happens when your city's engaged in trying to make these the cities out on your edges aren't as engaged in that process? How do you start the discussion with them about letting them do business?
I think I've tried both methods. I've tried to send them media business. That hasn't worked too well. And those ones I've done that for sort of failed to me. You just have to try to be patient. I think success brings success. And so I stopped a long time ago worrying about what the neighbors were doing and just trying to do it better. Be a better neighbor than I used to. And I see that. I think Kingsville Farming is a good one where it wasn't about cities. It was about people's consent and business to do it. So now we've got residents actually liking two cities. Like Singapore Farmington County thing. We didn't make a big deal about that. We didn't tell the school people how strong we all were for getting together as a neighborhood. But I think you just have to try. You just have to show people that this stuff works. You have to just not give up. If you give up, you start getting confidence.
I was just gonna say, engage them, let them know what you want to do, have a plan that you can give them, have them participate in that plan, and give them that opportunity, and then depending on whether or not they want to participate, that's up to them. But then you can move forward when you've done your part to engage them.
At some point, the residents will have to convince them.
I agree with what's been said. I think this is one place that Salt Lake County shines in